What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here on a rainy Friday afternoon drinking some Lafrag scotch.
Is that how we pronounce it?
Lafrag, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Badass.
Badass is right.
It's very tasty.
Yeah, would I call it like Laprague before or something like that?
What you sent me in the text message?
Yeah.
You were completely off. I
Yeah.
don't know, Le Blat or something.
Yeah, you know what?
Le Becte.
If you guys read the Bent, you know I'm not the best speller. Before, we got a lot to talk about this week. For the last month, it feels like. I've been like, slow week. Very, very big week this week. A lot to talk about. May run over an hour. The list is very long today.
Feels like Bitcoin again.
Right? It feels good. Before we get started, price of Bitcoin is $5,100 on the dot. Oh, excuse me. That's according to Bitstamp. We are using the XBX index, which is at $5,100 on the dot as well. We are at block 573,365, and this edition of Tales from the Crypt is brought to you by our friends at 21 Lectures. 21 Lectures' mission is to bring more developers to the Bitcoin ecosystem with more in-person courses. Lectured by world-renowned Bitcoin and Lightning developers, 21 Lectures courses teach participants the fundamentals of working with the Bitcoin blockchain. They cover cryptography, the structure of transactions and blocks, how they are chained, smart contract languages, the Lightning protocol, as well as software toolkits to develop on top of the Bitcoin blockchain and Lightning. To learn more, go to 21lectures.com, 21, the number, lectures.com. We will put that in the show notes. We're always looking for more developers, more eyes on the code. So if you're a developer looking to learn more about Bitcoin, 21lectures.com. Matt, like you said, it feels like Bitcoin again. Bitfinex back in the news. The New York State Attorney General's office officially sued them on behalf of New York traders. Apparently, they're missing $851 million. And it's a whole sort of mishmash of shadiness, shell companies, the government. Big story. Bitcoin fell, what, $300, $400 yesterday?
It like slightly dipped under 5,000.
Yeah.
At least if you were trading on BitMEX, you got like liquidated if your like liquidation price was at like 49.60 or something like that.
In my opinion, holding up pretty good.
I
considering the news.
I didn't expect it to hold over $5,000 overnight, which it did, which is pretty. I think it's pretty bullish. Like even if we go down from here, the fact that we didn't just go straight elevator down is pretty fucking bullish.
No, I agree. It's very bullish,
especially with it's just more proof that Bitcoin's a scam, you know. So.
Right? Well, let's jump into the specifics. So, yes, this news dropped around like 4:30 yesterday. According to the New York Attorney General's office, Bitfinex is connected with this company, Crypto Capital, which holds their funds. And Bitfinex went to get $851 million to sort of facilitate their business, and Crypto Capital came back and told them that the government, the U.S. government and Portuguese governments had seized those funds. So I believe that's where we stand.
But New York hasn't admitted that the funds have been seized, I don't think.
Yes.
Bitfinex says the funds have been seized.
Crypto Capital says they've been seized.
New York says they haven't been seized.
Another interesting thing about this, so again, Bitfinex has a long history in Bitcoin, a checkered history. They were hacked of 119,000 Bitcoin in the fall of 2016, and yesterday some of those Bitcoin moved for the first time since the hack, I believe.
Yeah, which is weird.
Very weird.
Which some people say points to it being that previous hack being an inside job, which already made a lot of sense that it was an inside job. A lot of these hacks are inside jobs. The weird thing is it wasn't that much Bitcoin. It was only 300 Bitcoin. But like in terms of that hack, it wasn't that much of the hack.
And 119,000 Bitcoin, 300 is not that much.
Yeah. So who would I'm trying to like work through the reasoning, and like unless you're like a complete fucking dumbass insider at Bitfinex.
Yeah. Why come out of the woodwork yesterday?
Why even move it? Like where? Like first of all, it doesn't look like they moved it to an exchange. It doesn't look like it went to an exchange address.
It's a legacy address. It's one.
And
right?
second of all, they're missing $850 million. Like you move like $1.5 million. That doesn't do shit.
Yeah. Very perplexing. So what does this all mean? Where are we, Matt?
Well, first of all, like crypto capital, it seems like they started working them relatively recently. This was mid 2018 when the funds got seized. Bitfinex and Tether have been operating in legal gray area, if not just straight illegal, for a while, at least based on U.S. regulations. Everyone says like Tether competes with all the regulated stablecoins, but they really don't, because the whole point of Tether is that you don't have to do KYC AML. That's not the case. Well, it kind of is the case with some of this the regulated stablecoins, but I don't think it will be the case going forward. Like they're just like kind of also in like a legal gray area, and that'll just get cleared up, and you'll have to do full KYC. And we've seen some of the regulated stablecoins get funds frozen and stuff and forced KYC on them. So when you have that and you have like billions of dollars of fiat in your custody, like imagine the crazy shit you have to do to move that around the world, like, and not get it seized by the US government. So they did a lot of questionable shit, and one of the elements of that was trusting this fucking company with almost $1 billion crypto capital, and look what happened.
Yeah. So let's play devil's advocate for Bitfinex here. They're obviously operating in this regulatory gray area with Tether, which was birthed in the aftermath of this hack, correct?
And Bitfinex, because Bitfinex doesn't do KYC either.
Yes. So they're operating that regulatory gray area. From Bitfinex's perspective, from what I can tell, what their sort of posturing is like, hey, we're trying to facilitate our exchange and our business, make it so users can take money in and out of the exchange. They seem to believe they can take out a loan based off their balance sheet and sort of facilitate the withdrawals on their exchange, and it seems like withdrawals have not been affected at all by this.
Well, yeah, so they took a loan. So from what we know right now, it seems like they got the money seized. It was Bitfinex money, almost $1 billion. So then they took
out a loan
from that money from Tether's coffers and exchanged it for shares of Bitfinex. And that's where the charge is actually from the New York AG. Like the government seized their funds allegedly, and then waited for them to try and cover it up, and then charged them with fraud and money laundering for the actual cover up of moving those funds.
So who's at fault here?
Which is classic. That's classic gov move.
It's like a trap.
I'm not going to defend Bitfinex. Bitfinex is this fucking sketchy ass exchange. Like,
I agree.
You shouldn't keep any money on it.
I agree. I just want to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I just want to play devil's advocate, what they're posturing. So this is how they're posturing.
And also to play devil's advocate for Bitfinex is they'd block all New York users, like intentionally.
Yeah. Then if you go through the court proceedings, the official lawsuit, I guess, they specifically like mention the time period before Bitfinex closed off New York users. Yeah.
And also, I mean, New York users could just use a VPN and connect to Bitfinex. And the only way Bitfinex could stop that is if they did KYC to every single one of their customers just to make sure that none of them are New York based, which is fucking ridiculous that you have to like compromise the privacy of all your users just because one state in one country, cares about it.
Yeah. So what does this mean? Is this the sly roundabout way that the U.S. government is starting to crack down?
I mean, I don't even know if it's sly roundabout. Like, I think this is exactly how they would do it, especially since now they have all these regulated stablecoins that are like registered in New York. That it like all of them came out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, we're not Tether, So it's like it's the perfect play, and I expect this kind of action to happen to like a Binance as well. What's interesting here is if you compare this to BitMEX's business, which is probably the only exchange that pisses off American regulators more than BitMEX is probably Bitfinex. BitMEX is probably number 2. But BitMEX, even though they give you exposure to USD, they never handle fiat. So that whole issue that we were talking about where you have to move billions of dollars of regulated US dollars all around the world, they don't have to do that. They just opted out of that, and they only allow Bitcoin deposits and withdrawals, and that makes them way more resilient to this type of action.
I know we've done this before, but let's just bask in the brilliance of that first principle business plan that BitMEX has.
It's so smart. Like even like a Binance, is so much more fucked because they handle fiat, and they also accept tons of altcoins that come with their own security risks and whatnot.
Yeah. So where do you think this goes? Obviously, are they going to go to court? They have to go to court, correct, or settle outside of court?
Don't they just do like a duel and like whoever? No,
trial by combat.
Well, it's interesting that the Tether peg is still holding.
Right.
And Bitfinex has processed like $200 million worth of withdrawals since the news, and it seems like they're running smoothly.
A lot of reputable people coming out on Twitter saying they had no problem withdrawing.
As long as you withdraw with crypto, with Bitcoin or like Ethereum or something. Mm-hmm. Don't withdraw with USD. Like that's who the fuck knows what'll happen there.
Yeah. So how do you think this ends? Do you think Bitfinex gets shut down? Do we end in fines, slap on the wrist, confiscation? What's
Tether
going on?
could never exist like regulated. So there's no like, I don't think there's like a gentle way out for Tether, and because Bitfinex is owned by the same people, like there's no gentle way out here. I thought they were fucked after 2016, and they somehow dug their way out of it with that whole little token scheme they had, which is questionable.
Well, that's what Tether came out of, correct?
No, Tether already existed at that point.
Did it?
Yeah, but they created that
Bitfinex token pegged it to Tether.
No, it was traded against Tether, but it was technically pegged to
shares on the Bitcoin that were stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was going to be paid back in full over time, but you could buy the shares early. You could sell out early.
Yeah, so this was like the first big use case for Tether, I would argue, right?
I don't know. I think the big use case of Tether was like back in the day, like it was like from what we talked about transferring US dollars around and getting bank accounts and stuff. It was so hard for exchanges to get access. Tether getting born, I think it was born in like 2014, 2015. Tether being born allowed all these little exchanges, even stuff like Binance, to really blossom because they didn't need a bank account. They could just use Tether as their US dollar source. And that was, I think that, was really the major use case, was basically Bitfinex got to share their fiat access with a whole ecosystem of little exchanges.
Yeah. It's crazy how it's evolved over the years and where it is now. We'll see where it's going. We've been warning you freaks about Tether for a while now. Here's another sort of warning tremor from the authorities. Is Bitfinex vindicated?
No, he was completely fucking wrong, and I think that's what's important here.
Why was he wrong?
Because his claims the whole time was that Tether was unbacked, and there was not actually money in reserves, and that pumped up the price of Bitcoin, and that the price of Bitcoin was artificially inflated, and that we should sell at $800. So now we're sitting on like $5,100. It appears the New York AG is saying that Tether was fully reserved until November until mid 2018, right? Not November 2018. It was like May 2018 or something when it happened.
I believe July was when the problem started.
So they were fully reserved like up until that point.
November was when the AG like asked for more information or something like that.
Yeah, and then here we go, and right now like it looks like all this could come crashing down, and Bitcoin price is you'd still be up over 5x from where Bitfinex told us to sell. And we all knew that at any point Bitfinex and Tether could get hit with money laundering. They didn't even need this. They could just be like, people transfer Tether to each other and don't do KYC, and they're terrorists, and that's money laundering. Like it's super easy to hit them with a money laundering charge. So like my prediction here is the U.S. government will continue to try and fuck Bitfinex and Tether, and Bitfinex and Tether will continue to try to not get fucked, and like eventually they'll get fucked. That's the prediction.
It's a catch me if you can scenario right now.
Yeah, so who knows how long they could handle it, right? But eventually.
Another interesting thing that I don't know if I think it was confirmed in the court. I think there was rumors of this going around, but I think the filings sort of confirmed it, was that Bitfinex has been using the bank accounts of friends of employees to send users money, which is like
people were reporting that like they were getting transactions from just random people. This is exactly the kind of creative bullshit you have to do when you have to interact with fiat and you're like an illegal business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just crazy. So like, just know that like this exchange is doing some pretty asinine things. Like they're using individual.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Like, what other option do they have? Like, that's exactly the creativity that Tether gave them.
Those are some ride or die friends. Like, yeah, you can just.
No, they were getting a vig. Everyone was getting a cut. We don't know that, but I would be surprised if they weren't.
It's a massive risk for the vig.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll find out.
I mean, I wouldn't lend Bitfinex my bank account, but yeah. So it definitely is a massive risk. I think they get paid. I think they probably got paid. Yeah, I mean, this is why Bitcoin exists. It's like every time this kind of thing happens, it just proves why Bitcoin exists. Is that it's not easy to move U.S. dollars around unless you have permission.
Yeah, it's funny. These attacks are glaring endorsements. Is this an attack on Bitcoin?
It's funny that it's a glaring endorsement to people in the know, but to people like, have you read any headlines today? I haven't read any of the headlines, but it's definitely like Bitcoin CEO money laundered $850 million or whatever.
Yeah, this coming right off the heels of Quadriga is not great press either for Bitcoin overall. Froggy voice here. Yeah, that hurt. I work with some Canadians who were affected by Quadriga, and they saw this and we're like, oh, look, another Quadriga. And I was like, God damn it.
On the bright side, at least no one's talking about that fraud Craig Wright anymore.
Well, you just brought him up. We were going to try and not bring him up.
Yeah, but at least I called him a fraud.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, meanwhile, we're having a conversation on your favorite subject, which is Tether, which you don't like talking about. The second I saw the news broke, that was the first thing I thought about. I was like, oh, Marty's going to love talking about this on RHR.
Well, I'm okay talking with it now because I think, again, up to this point, the price has been stable and Tether's been a much cause for FUD in the past. I don't think it's as potent of FUD as it was in the past.
And in previous, it was like unsubstantiated FUD, and like at least this is like actual FUD.
Yeah, there's like chat logs and evidence of what's going on.
And there's like a lot of fear here, especially for like altcoins and any person who has money on exchanges is at increased risk here, and they might not even realize it. Like Binance holds a shit ton of Tether. A bunch of these exchanges hold huge amounts of Tether. So like really you should never keep much money on exchanges, but right now more than ever, like if you're using an exchange that holds a lot of Tether, like you should probably withdraw that to keys you control.
Good advice. And before you do that, check out the HODL guide, which we have shared on this show before.
Bang, bang.
I actually shared that today. Somebody emailed me looking for a way to create a wallet. And I said, hey, here's the HODL guide.
I keep it. That is like along with like 3 other links I keep in my bookmark toolbar when I get DMs, so I can just send them out.
Next topic, ErisX and TD Ameritrade are testing out Bitcoin trading for their 11 million customers, for TD Ameritrade's 11 million customers. So ErisX is an exchange that lets you trade spot contracts for Bitcoin based out of Chicago. They're looking to level up, and it looks like they're partnering with more legitimate sort of investment platforms. TD Ameritrade's testing it out with them. We were talking before. It allows you to trade Bitcoin spot prices, but we're not sure if there's any underlying physical Bitcoin being delivered or anything like that.
You're definitely not getting physical Bitcoin delivered. Like they're not going to give you, like you can't give them a withdrawal address.
No, definitely not.
Can't. Hopefully.
But is it like a Robinhood or is it?
I'm pretty sure ErisX actually holds Bitcoin.
Okay.
That's part of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
They hold the Bitcoin that's being traded.
Okay. I'm
pretty sure, let's say 95%. Either way, this is a huge fucking deal. This is first of all exactly what happens when regulators fucking drag their feet on giving retail like a proper ETF, because all these different brokerage services need to basically they're offering their own alternative to the ETF. You have Robinhood offering it. Fidelity is working on something similar. TD Ameritrade is going to offer it to their 11 million customers. So it gives similar exposure to an ETF to mass retail. Any of these 11 million people that have a TD Ameritrade account, your uncle who's like 55 years old, who like kind of wants to get Bitcoin exposure but doesn't want to deal with any of controlling your own keys or any of the technology. Guy could barely send an email. Like, he can buy it on TD Ameritrade. And I think, if anything, the fact that they're dragging their feet on the ETF is kind of nice, because we have all these little options where you can get exposure, and instead of like one massive ETF that holds like 40% of the Bitcoin or whatever it would be if they got in early. Like, that's where you're
watching the market get creative as the regulators drag their feet. That's a great point to make. Like, you let all these options flourish, and maybe people would just not naively, but lazily just invest in the ETF without even thinking. So now that
I mean, if you didn't have any other, if the people who were tech illiterate and didn't want to try and learn personal sovereignty and whatnot and learn how to use Bitcoin properly, but just want exposure to it, understand that as an investment it makes a lot of sense, but are like kind of statist and are like fine with like trusting the state in a lot of ways. Like, if their main way of exposure was this just one ETF or two ETFs, then that's where everyone would go. But because this takes a lot more time to get something like this out, because you have to do it on like an individual brokerage service basis. But now we have the time, so we are getting all these little things. So maybe it'll get more distributed out. Maybe it'll be more spread out, and I think that's better. Like, I don't think I would never recommend a custodial service, especially to anyone in our age group. I would never use one. But like, it's definitely like a reasonable option, and it's good that we have options out there. And no one's saying that either you do 100%, you do 100% in a custodial service. Some people might feel more comfortable like having like 20% in a custodial service, 80% they control their own keys. Maybe they split that up between like a hardware wallet and cold storage. So like, they have you use multiple methods, and that way any particular threat can't fuck you.
Yeah. So this Eris news is just another in a long line of positive news from the institutional side. Slowly but surely, the on-ramps to investing in this asset are being built out, being widened, becoming more robust. It's beautiful to see.
And exactly, I agree. And for what it's worth, I think this is like mostly a rumor, but it seems like it's like a confirmed rumor. But you know how it is in the Bitcoin. You know how it is in the space.
No, Eris confirmed it. Eris said in the release from the block, testing is best practice necessary for us and our customers as we build the most robust, transparent marketplace for digital assets. That's the phase they're in now. Right,
but I'm saying they're testing. That means they could launch in 3 months, or they could launch in fucking 5 years. Like, you never fucking know.
Well, they say it's in a production environment with a limited number of participants.
Exactly. Where's backed?
That's true.
When ETF, Marty?
That's true.
So just everyone,
That's what we said in the beginning of the year. Don't hold your breath on this.
Yeah,
stuff.
don't hold your breath on this bullshit. But it's still good news.
Still good news. Not as good news. Any of you Ledger users out there? There's currently a Windows phishing bug going out. So Ledger detected a malware that locally replaces the Ledger Live desktop application with a malicious one. Users of infected computers are asked not to enter their 24-word recovery phrase after a fake update. Please refer to our security best practices. We'll link to that tweet. They fucked up that tweet. They told people to enter their 24-word phrase.
The tweet? Did they delete it?
They did not. Users of infected computers are asked to enter their 24-word. Do not enter your 24-word.
They kind of. Anyway, this isn't really that big of a deal. If you. One simple rule to follow that would make sure that this wouldn't happen to you is just always enter your seed on the device. Never enter your seed. And same with the password. When we talk about the passphrase, always enter it on your device. Don't enter it on the computer. If you're prompted to enter on the computer, it's phishing scam.
Yeah, just be very skeptical if you're ever asked to enter your seed phrase
anywhere.
Triple, quadruple check.
Yeah. And specifically with Ledger and Trezor, you can add it right on the device intentionally, so it never touches your computer. Do that.
Yes. And if anybody ever asks you for your seed phrase, just be inherently skeptical.
Yeah, don't DM people your seed phrases.
You can DM them to me if you want to. Next, Wasabi updates. Hardware wallet support is moving along.
Have you used it yet?
With the hardware?
Yeah.
I have not. Admittedly, no.
I tested it. So we got the new update for Wasabi.
Let me go through the stats first.
Go.
The latest update is a 20x increase in bandwidth, 12x increase in load time reduction, or decrease in load time reduction, excuse me. You got lurking wife mode. There's been a PR to change that. And support for P2P communication has been added.
Okay. So I tested out the new Wasabi. This is a big update. It's a good update. For the load time, it keeps an index of your addresses locally. So the first time you load the wallet, it'll be slower to load, but then after that, it's way quicker, which is awesome. I tested out the hardware wallet integration. Right now, it supports the new Trezor, so the Trezor Model T, the Nano S, the Ledger Nano S, and the Cold Card. They're working on testing out and getting support for the other ones. I was correct. It is a separate wallet, so you have your hot wallet for mixing, and then you have a separate wallet through Wasabi that's for hardware wallets, and they just have mixing disabled.
So is that separate wallet like a quasi Trezor bridge? What is it? I'm still trying to conceptualize that.
I mean, so your keys are held on your Trezor, right? So your public key is shown to Wasabi, and then Wasabi pulls the transaction info. And the way Wasabi does that is their server is sending block filters out that tell you what transactions are in each block. And then you pull the blocks that are necessary for your transactions, either from your own node, if you have your own node connected. If it's running on your own computer, it automatically does that. Or from peers. And when it does it from peers, now with this update, that's all through Tor as well. And when it takes a block from a peer, it disconnects from them afterwards. So you can only take a max of one block per peer. So that's way more, and that's in light mode, and that's way more secure for light mode if you're not running your own full node. And if you're using your own full node, it's even more private.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Because it seemed like if Wasabi was just feeding you the blocks, there's a trust layer there. So if you're able to get them fed by peers, it seems
right. So Wasabi, there is a little bit of trust, but Wasabi's not feeding you the blocks. Where Wasabi could break your trust is if Wasabi doesn't tell you that a transaction that affects you was in a block to look at it for the first place, right? When they send those filters, they're the only ones sending filters right now. Presumably, it can be made that others can send filters. It's similar to Neutrino, how Neutrino works. So you need more people to send filters to reduce that trust. But even still, Wasabi isn't actually sending you blocks. They're just telling you which blocks you might want to look at.
Okay.
Anyway, so the hardware wallet integration is pretty slick. One negative is that it defaults to BEC32 addresses, just like native SegWit addresses, just like regular Wasabi, and no one who's been using hardware wallets has been using those addresses. So none of your old balances will show. Only balances that are in BC1 addresses.
Interesting.
So that's a little bit
wonky.
A little bit wonky for people to grok. You have to send them to the new addresses for them to show. And no, but yeah, it's fantastic, and Wasabi usage keeps going up. We had the biggest CoinJoin round, I think that there's ever been, which was 100 people. Wasabi now is set, so a round happens either if we hit 100 participants, or the round hasn't happened in 2 weeks, 2 hours.
Okay. In an effort to be intellectually honest here, a good friend of the pod, fellow beefy Bitcoin boy James O'Byrne, posited yesterday on Twitter about the testing and auditing of Wasabi's code. Like, where are we on that? Like, obviously in production it's working now, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, most projects in the space need more auditing, and I sure as hell am not qualified to do it. You're not qualified enough to do it. It is an open source project, so anyone can go and audit it if they wish. I think it's just if I think that if you are in this space and you can't read the code, you can't verify stuff for yourself, then the best practice is to always be using multiple methods. Like you shouldn't, don't like rush out and like put all your funds on a Trezor through Wasabi. Like that's just reckless,
Yeah.
So you have to, you have to plan accordingly, split up your risk amongst.
Yeah, and another thing,
But I've been using it for 8 months now, and I haven't had a single Satoshi stolen from me.
that's
Something.
confidence creating, and we also preach that you should treat this as a hot wallet. Don't store all your shit Wasabi.
Right, but that's why it becomes interesting now that you can access your hardware through it, right? Because people might feel, as they should feel more comfortable holding more coins there. So like at least with like the hardware wallet feature, like like let it test it out. I tested it out with Send. I connected my Trezor to it. I tested that it works with a pin and an extra passphrase. I received to my Trezor and then I sent back out, no problems. And the other thing that was kind of cool is once you set up your Trezor, you don't have to plug your Trezor in to receive. You can just open up Wasabi and press open up Wasabi and then open up the hardware wallet portion of Wasabi, and you can generate a receive address, and you can send to that receive address without connecting your Trezor. You only have to connect your Trezor when it comes time to spend. And I tested that out too, and that worked.
So it just pulls your XPub key list.
It already has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you first set it up, it takes your XPub, and then I hopefully it's encrypting it with your password.
I'm telling you, man, Wasabi's got some of the best UX at the wallet level out there.
Yeah, the UX is great, and just keeps proving. They're just keep adding iterative improvements.
Yeah, so if any of you freaks out there are listening and are able to audit their code, please give it a look if you have some time.
Yeah, or 21 lectures, right?
Yeah, 21 lectures. If you can't audit it yet but hope to at some point in the future, go to 21lectures.com.
And what's Justin Moon's thing too?
Biddle Bootcamp.
Yeah, learn to code. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh,
biddlebootcamp.com.
Yeah, BUIDL.
Yes.
Biddle always sounds weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
It makes more sense written. About Wasabi. Oh, right. They gave us belts. We got belts.
We got white belts.
So congratulations, Marty. I'm excited to tell my mother about this.
I feel like I can't take any credit. I feel like you put me on your back and carried me across the white belt line.
You can take plenty of credit, Marty. We did this together. Anyway, I guess the belt system is a way to reward people who are educating and doing things in the Wasabi space.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to receive it. I think it was unnecessary. Our privacy is enough reward for us, but
Yeah, I'm gonna wear it with pride.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to spread the good word.
I don't think we actually get a belt, but yeah.
No, it's virtual.
And then the other thing is
is it a non-fungible token belt?
They would never do that. We would fork Wasabi. The funny thing about it is when in the discussion on Twitter, No Power was like, he's like, well, I have certain standards for giving people belts. Like I wouldn't give Joe Rogan a belt if he tweeted about Wasabi. And then that led me down a path where I thought he meant that Joe Rogan tweeted about Wasabi, and I was freaking out because that would be fucking dope. So supposedly, if you're a blue belt, you can promote your own belts. So like they have to be careful. Like they should never promote me to a blue belt because like I would absolutely give Joe Rogan a belt if he tweeted about Wasabi. Like absolutely, fucking worth it.
You wouldn't even make him tweet about it. You give him the belt, be like, Joe, you got the belt. Now you have to tweet about it.
Yeah, you
okay?
got to tweet about your belt, Joe.
Yeah. No, it was shout out to Max Hildebrand for giving us the
Yeah, he promoted us.
Yeah,
he was
the
the
promotion.
promotion. On World Crypto Net is his show.
Yeah, he's talking about somebody who's doing an incredible job educating the space. Keep fighting the good fight, Max. Next up, Lightning Labs releases Beta Neutrino Lightning app for desktop.
Have you tried this out?
Have not.
So after like my embarrassment about Eclair, like I pledged to you freaks that I'm trying out all this shit before we talk about it on the pod. So I downloaded this app. It's Lightning Labs' new, I guess, flagship Lightning app. It's on desktop. This shit.
It looks hot.
I see the vision. I see it's a beta. It's their first mainnet release. It uses Neutrino, so it doesn't have a full node. So Neutrino is similar. It's the new proposal for better SPV wallets, better light wallets. It's similar to how I just explained for Wasabi. They send you filters instead of you sending the addresses you need. They send you filters, and then you know which blocks to pull. So it's more privacy preserving. I'm pretty sure Neutrino just got merged into the new version of Core, so that Core nodes can send out Neutrino these filters that you need for this. Because right now I'm pretty sure Lightning is just the one sending out the filters, which is obviously not ideal. The good thing about that Core merge is I'm pretty sure it's not on by default. So if you're running a node, you can enable it. I'm going to enable it because, people are going to use it anyway. Might as well have more people serving up the information. And but anyway, because it uses Neutrino, super fucking fast sync. You just you install the program, and basically their idea is that you're synced by the time you write down the 24 words and then confirm it in the app. But like I just didn't practice OPSEC and I just copied and pasted it, so it still took a little bit while to sync. But this is just a test wallet, so whatever. But don't do that. Super quick to sync. It was like within 3 minutes, I had it up and going. I had a transaction from Wasabi to fund the Lightning wallet, and then so they have autopilot on by default, which automatically is supposed to connect you.
I don't like autopilot.
Yeah, well, supposedly they refined it, and they have it on by default. And I wanted to see what their vision was and what would happen if one of the freaks downloaded it without going into the settings and turned it off, right? So I left autopilot on, and they just immediately put all my I sent point one because it was from Wasabi. They immediately put all $500 in one big channel with an LN big node, which just really grinded my gears. So now I have some. I wonder if maybe
are they picking Ellen Big, or are they just looking for a channel?
So then
with
I closed
a certain
that
capacity?
channel. I closed that channel, and it opened with a different non-Ellen Big node. I think it opens with high capacity nodes, and they try and put all of it in there so you can send a larger payment. But that's questionable to me. There's a trade-off there that I'm not sure if I'm happy with, and I wonder if Ellen Big is intentionally. Because Ellen Big is spinning up so many nodes. And I wonder if one of the intentions is to basically game this autopilot system. The autopilot system is supposed to rely on capacity and reliability. They're doing reliability scores to see which nodes stay online and have a lot of connections and act as good routing nodes. Basically, their vision is you connect to the big routing nodes with autopilot, and then you use Lightning Loop to get some inbound capacity from that channel. Right, that's the vision. I'm not yet. Like I said,
how many Ellen Big channels are there? The highest I see right now is 41.
There's a lot, but if you look at the top 100, they're half of the top 100. It's not great.
Sorry, I'm looking at 1ml.com. This website's awesome.
Yeah, I really like that website. Okay, so the other thing that's interesting is they don't give you a pub key anywhere accessible. I couldn't figure it out. So I can't open a channel to you if you have this app installed, which is weird. You can't get inbound channels. Also, usually you can take the pub key from... So then after I tested out the autopilot, the next thing I did was I closed the channel again, and then I opened a channel with stacking sats, our node, because I wanted to see what was going on here. And I'm pretty sure they default to private channels. So I couldn't even get the pub key from myself opening a channel with our other node.
So you have to go into like the command line to find it or something?
I think their dream is to have no inbound because you get inbound through Lightning Loop. So their dream is you have one, you're like a leaf node, you like literally contribute shit all to the fucking network, and you just boot this up with Neutrino. You connect to one or two big routing nodes through autopilot and massive channels, as much capacity as you've put into your Lightning wallet. And then so because you have a private channel, no one else can see it and no one else can route through it except for you and I think just you. And then you do Lightning Loop through it. So it's like relatively private. You run the whole thing through Tor, but there are a lot of sovereignty trade-offs there that are happening.
What do you mean? Like you don't
trusting,
sovereignty and the ability that you don't have the ability to get.
You're like trusting one node, and you're not helping the rest of the network route payments, which isn't great. And you're not even a fully validating node to begin with.
So is this for our 55-year-old uncles who can't send emails?
Yeah, I mean the vision here is that this competes with custodial wallets and is better in some ways.
A little less custodial.
It's I would say it's not custodial, but it is. Yeah, I don't think the receiving party can close a private channel. Like I said, I'm like 99% sure. This is my first time really fucking around with private channels, so feel free to correct me, freaks, on Twitter. But when I opened this channel from this Lightning app to the Nodl, it didn't. I mean, we have a ton of fucking channels, so I had to like go through it. But like, I'm 99% sure that I didn't see it on my side on Zap, so I can't close it as the receiving party. So maybe that's a little bit safer. Like at least they can't like maliciously
close out on you.
Yeah, or like broadcast an old state or something. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this is supposed to be like the same target market as a custodial wallet. Get up and running real quick, but not custodial. The other thing is the interface is, I see where they're going with it and I like it. Everything, first of all, is displayed in dollars. It's one unified balance among your on-chain wallet and your Lightning funds. Because
you just loop in if you need it.
No, you don't loop in. You're actually opening channels. Mm-hmm. You actually are open. You loop in would imply that you were just funding an existing channel, which is what a lot of the custodial services might use. But with this, you would just, they're opening channels, but they keep it as one unified balance. It's displayed in USD, and then right underneath it, it says the percent in Lightning, the amount that's in the Lightning channels. And that'll always, if you have autopilot on, that will probably always be like around 99%. It seems like they just pop it up. And what's interesting is when you open channels and you send payments, there's no sats or anything. It's all dollars. Everything is in dollars. If you open the channels pages where it shows your pending channels, your open channels, everything is in dollars.
How do you feel about that?
I think in sats now, baby. Like, I don't know. I'm not their target market. I think it's interesting. I like the vision. It's something different. It's more mainstream user, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm definitely not going to hate now. But yeah, it was intriguing. I didn't love the lack of public key. Like at least put that in like advanced options or something.
Yeah. No. So I'll play around with that this week and talk about it next week. But staying on the topic of,
you could literally, if you install it right now, by the time we finish recording this episode,
it will probably bought something.
It will already have like your channels open and ready to go. Like if you have it on autopilot, like it takes, I would say, it takes 2 confirms before a channel opens, or maybe 3. So like the whole process from install to having open channels and being ready to spend on Lightning is like 40 to 60 minutes.
It's not too shabby.
No.
Not too shabby at
all.
And
most of it, the user's just waiting for the actual confirmations anyway.
Yeah. So slowly but surely, shit's getting better. And like again, like we always talk about, like the differing solutions is what blows my mind. Like you said, there's different trust trade-offs with this model. You don't have your public key. It's a different set of use cases, a different UX flow. Like the more the merrier. This is just one app of many. Like we talked about Eclair. Eclair's async a couple weeks ago. Extensions like Joule, Casa's extension, just other ways in which to interact with this Zap. It just keeps growing. It's awesome.
Yeah. So this app, I think you could compare it very easily to something like Async, because that to Eclair. Async's the company, right? To the Eclair wallet, because that's also a full Lightning node, but a light Bitcoin node, not a full Bitcoin node.
Yeah.
But with Eclair, there's a lot more power user options that this Lightning app just doesn't even give you. It just keeps it as simple as possible.
Yeah. Just tries to let you know, give you as little decisions as possible. That's what it
literally
sounds
just
like.
get you up and running with a couple clicks.
Yeah. Talking about getting up and running quickly, staying on James O'Byrne, who we brought up in the Wasabi section. He recently took to the Bitcoin dev mailing list to present Assume UTXO, which is a proposal to basically insert not a checkpoint. It's not a checkpoint, but it's like a hashed.
Not a checkpoint, Marty.
It's not a checkpoint. I got that wrong yesterday in the bent.
We've officially said the checkpoint word like 4 times now. We got no more using that word.
No, it's not a checkpoint. But Assume UTXO would allow you to basically a user who wants to set up a Bitcoin full node quickly and transact in a timely manner. Initial block download from scratch takes 4 hours to a couple days, depending on what your hardware solution is and your internet. Assume U2XO would allow you to take sort of snapshots of certain block heights that would be hashed at certain levels, and it would allow you to download quickly and transact, receive and send transactions. Meanwhile, the full state of the blockchain would sync in the background, and once it's to the full tip, you're basically using a full node.
Yeah, that's why it's not a checkpoint, because
Yes.
you actually do. It's just to
Validate
get you
everything.
up and running quickly, but then you do go back and validate the whole thing, and then you'll see if you've been lied to or not.
Yeah, so if you've been lied to, it'll go back and say, hey.
And like once one person's been lied to, like everyone's gonna flip a shit as well, right? Like it's not like because first of all, it's not like any old Joe is giving these Assume UTXOs. Basically, like a group of developers come together, make a hash of the UTXO set at a certain point that's relatively back.
Far back, yeah. It's tens
Yeah.
of thousands of blocks back.
I don't know if they're going that far back on this proposal.
No?
Yeah, but still pretty far back.
Yeah.
And they all agreed to it. They merged the code, and like everyone's looking at it too at the same time before people even it gets shipped out. So,
So
it's relatively trust minimized, and it gets IBD down tremendously, especially if you're running a Tor node. Because if you're running a Tor node, IBD takes fucking forever.
from experience?
It just really, really takes a long time.
No,
Tor
so-
is slow.
Apologies to fellow beefy Bitcoin boy James for misrepresenting Assume UTXO on the bend yesterday. It's not a checkpoint.
I mean, some people call it a checkpoint, but it's important, I think, to make a distinction.
No, I think...
And this is also why it's different from like Geth fast sync and stuff, because it actually is validating the whole chain. It's not just relying on headers.
Yeah, so
anything
James...
like that.
I wasn't at BitDevs this week. I was busy. Couldn't make it. So he presented this at BitDevs. What was, he compared it... He did a good framing of comparing it to Geth first,
Right,
he said.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that before you wrote the bend today. Or 2 days ago, whenever you wrote it.
So, yeah, what was the framing there?
Yeah, that it's not the same as Geth fast sync, which is Ethereum's fast sync, and that's because you actually are validating everything.
Yeah.
And after the Assume UTXO, you're validating everything after that as well. Before you validate everything else, so you start the Assume UTXO, you validate everything past that, and then once you do that, you go back and validate the whole thing. That never happens with Ethereum fast sync.
Yeah, it just seems like it could be implemented into Bitcoin in a very similar way that neutrino was, like we just described. You can make it modular and say, hey, I want to assume UTXO on this IBD.
I mean, yeah,
toggle it on, then yeah.
One thing I liked about the bent that you said was like that's how I agree it should be implemented, which is, and I don't think they've even gotten that far yet in the proposal, but like basically like it should be a button, and then like when you click it, it should be like warning, like you're not validating all the previous, before block height, whatever, until after the sync or whatever.
Yes.
Like give you a nice big fat warning and make it optional. Don't make it so that always. And I would even, I wouldn't be against just like a completely like a fork of the client being packaged that's like Bitcoin noob version, and it gives you, it like keeps neutrino enabled, keeps, assume UTXO enabled, and like has some of those more newbie defaults, and then you give them like a big fat warning in the beginning. Like that's cool.
As long as the warning is there, and as long as people understand the trade-offs and the risk involved, everything's okay. And again, with this, the fact that the full state of the blockchain is downloading in the background is very comforting as well.
Right. And I think, the best argument for this is that, it'll make it so that people that want to get up and running right away tend to pick worse wallets because they don't want to wait for a full node sync. So if they're going to pick worse wallets anyway, by doing this, then they'll actually run a full node, and they'll rely on their shitty promise in the beginning, which is better than the promise they would be relying on whatever other wallet they were using. And then ultimately they will become a full node user and contribute back and self-validate themselves and be a full Bitcoin citizen.
Yeah.
And like I said, Tor nodes. I think it incentivizes Tor nodes tremendously. Because IBD is so bad on Tor nodes.
Yeah, so if you wanted to run a Tor node, not even necessarily want to transact quickly, just want to be able to use your node in a timely manner, not in like 30 minutes, but like in a day or two. This is probably...
Yeah, I think it takes... I haven't synced a Tor node
imagine
in a
it take
while.
a couple
I
weeks,
think it takes...
right?
Yeah. It definitely takes more than a couple days, I think.
Yeah.
And that's a good reminder, like, now that, Bitcoin really relies on Tor, and everyone should be running, if you're running a Bitcoin node, you should also be running a Tor relay node. A lot of people think that running a Tor node puts you at legal risk, especially in America. That's not the case, because a Tor relay node, you just stay within the Tor network, which is, if you're running like a Tor Bitcoin node, that's what's happening as well. It's never leaving Tor and going into the ClearNet, the regular web. That's where you have issues, because there's a second type of node called a Tor exit node. And if you're running that, then people might be looking at like child porn or something, doing illegal stuff through your internet connection, going out to the ClearNet, and that could be really bad. But if you run a Tor relay node, you're just helping out the network, you're helping out Bitcoin network, and you're helping out Tor, and that's just a big deal, I think. So, and that'll help too with the IBD. If more people run Tor nodes, Tor relay nodes, more people run Tor Bitcoin nodes, more people run Tor Lightning nodes, that's just win-win-win.
I feel like I can feel the Samurai Wallet guys getting all hard right now listening to you pump this Tor stuff.
You got to make the belt worth it.
No, it's crazy. We can, and this is something we talk about. Like, we have a conscious decision right now as humans transitioning into the information age. We can go down one or two paths. We get the dystopian, centrally planned economy of the world, where you've got facial recognition and you're only allowed to see information that's presented to you by a few gatekeepers, or you work hard for a world in which privacy and freedom are enabled, but you have to work for it. That's the thing. You have to download the software, you have to run it, and you have to participate. It's not just going to come to you.
You have to be a citizen.
Yes. I'm happy. We got the node running in the background, and I'm pretty sure the node launcher has Tor enabled by default now.
There you go.
So we're supporting it in the background.
I think it does. I haven't tried it since.
Yeah. Next, Satoshi Treasure update. Not gonna lie, been away from the Dread Pirate
Dude,
Roberts.
Our team, first of all, is fucking badass. We have a fucking badass team.
We have all four keys.
They're going above it. I think everyone does at this point, but they're going above and beyond. They're like blowing me away they have like team management software and application process and everything. And me and Marty have just not been able to follow along at all. They've just like completely
blunt. It's out of my. I feel bad even like saying I'm on the team at this point.
You know, I feel like our place is more, you know, we help with team enthusiasm, we help with outreach and exposure, and I think, you know, whether or not they decide to like cut us out of the ultimate winnings, like at least our team has agreed to donate 10% to Free Ross, so we know like we did that, right?
We did that. We named it.
Yeah.
Found the first shard. Hey, that's all. That's all.
Exactly.
That's all I need to do.
It'd be nice to get like a little cut, you know.
Look,
I'm gonna try to work harder. I'm gonna
work harder too. I'm not gonna be solving any like crazy. I'm not gonna be brute forcing anything.
But it's not even that. I check Discord and there's like 400 housekeeping messages because they're doing so much. I'm so impressed. It's not even necessarily like in the clue downtime in between when there's going to be clues. They're just making everything better. We have like a website portal and John Cantrell.
John Cantrell, Ordo.
He like set up and he open sourced it and released it out to the other teams too. Like, what the fuck, dude? Beautiful.
Shout out John Cantrell.
Yeah.
A wizard. We found a wizard.
Yeah, he's on our team.
He's a leader.
We're on his team.
Yeah, we're on John. We're on your team. This is no longer our team.
Anyway, we're still looking for recruits. We already have like a pretty geographically dispersed team, but we're always looking for more talented people, more people around the world because you need to be based in different locations. We have clue number 5 coming out on Sunday, so we're gonna throw the link for the application that they made up in the show notes. I think it's tinyurl.com/GPR Avengers.
I believe. Yep, that's exactly it. tinyurl.com/TPR Avengers. Dread Pirate Roberts Avengers.
So sign up for that, and if you don't get included, you don't be angry at us because I don't even think we're part of the application process anymore.
I hope we're not. I hope we're not because nothing would get done if we were.
There you go.
Samsung invests $2.9 million, basically $3 million into the ledger.
This kind of went below the radar.
Yeah, what's going on here?
Bullish. It's huge news.
Well, hasn't Samsung been working on their own phone wallets and stuff?
Yeah, they have that bullshit Ethereum wallet that has like engine on it, and engine pumped like 1,200%. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking ridiculous. It doesn't support Bitcoin.
It's all about
Samsung
partnerships,
wallet.
dude. It's all about partnerships.
Yeah, they have a wallet built into the S10, their new phone that's coming out, and and I think they have like Brave integrated and shit. But I think, you know, this is a big deal. Samsung is the largest phone manufacturer in the world. They eventually have to support the number one cryptocurrency in the world, and Ledger is one of the top hardware wallets. So this kind of thing is like, I think we would absolutely imagine how much we'd be freaking out if 2 years ago we found out Samsung had invested in Ledger. Like, that would have been crazy. It would have been absolutely crazy.
I'm so jaded by this point. You know, there's so many of these announcements. It's
But Ledger's like the perfect fit because like Ledger was like kind of like the more statist hardware wallet company. You know, like they believe in like proprietary security chips and stuff like that. That's the trade-off they're willing to make, while Trezor tries to go like fully open source. Cold Card tries to go fully open source.
I imagine the new Bluetooth functionalities with Ledger.
Yeah, exactly. They do Bluetooth.
Appease Samsung as well.
And Ledger's experimented in the past with, Samsung has like a they call it a secure chip. But it's like a quasi-secure chip on Samsung phones in the past. And I remember Ledger had an app for a little while that it was only compatible with Samsung phones. This was like 3 years ago or something like that. And it would use that secure element in your phone. But no one used it. But yeah, so like they're like, it's a perfect fit. And that's awesome. I'm excited that Ledger got more funding. I'm excited that Samsung's got skin in the game. You couple that with their crypto wallet, and this is a big fucking deal. And meanwhile, Apple's releasing a credit card without a number on it. So.
Hey, I think there's some Apple Pay team members that listen to this podcast. Shout out to you guys. We want to see an Apple Bitcoin wallet.
I'm excited, guys. Make me proud. I have to say, like 2 years ago, I thought it was a very real possibility that for like the next 10 years, so like 8 years from now, because this was 2 years ago, we would never see any Bitcoin wallets on the Apple Store. Like for the while, iPhone was just banning Bitcoin wallets in general. So the fact that they don't do that anymore, I think, is just massive. So we should just be happy about that because that's something that would just be unsolvable. They have a little closed garden there with their app store, and they could just be like, fuck you, and they didn't do that. So that's good.
Yeah, and going back to Bitfinex, too, like the fact that the New York Attorney General is letting them like run operations and they want to make sure that their users aren't interrupted or anything like that is like sort of a vote of approval or a vote of approval, excuse me.
What do you mean?
In my mind, like just the fact that they didn't seize it and shut it down, and
maybe they can't.
Maybe they can't, but like Hasu said,
you don't think the New York AG would just shut the whole thing down if they could?
Well, so Hasu brought up this example going back to Black Friday in the poker world when they shut down, I forget what website it was, and it's like a famous day in the poker world.
Poker Stars or whatever,
well,
right?
Poker Stars wound up buying this company. So what happened was the U.S. government like shut them down.
I remember that shit happened.
But they wanted to allow their customers to get stuff out, so they made it so that people were able to get their money out. And
they were able to withdraw.
Yeah, eventually, over time. And now online poker is like a big thing. It's becoming more palatable here in the States in particular. And maybe this is just like another thing like, hey, we don't like what you're doing with Tether. We don't like what you're doing as an exchange, but we don't want you to interrupt your users who are acting in good faith in their mind. So the user is actually using Bitcoin or using it in good faith, which is a good sign, I would say.
Well, first of all, yeah, that whole going after poker, going after gambling, online sports and poker gambling in America was like a key reason for why I realized Bitcoin was going to have value in the first place. Because the way they went after them, if I recall correctly, was they went after the payment processors. They went after Visa, MasterCard, banks, and shit like that. A more recent comparison, I would say, would be one broker who they took down.
They got the FBI.
Right.
FBI.
They took down their website domain
page.
Right? And deposits and withdrawals were frozen. Like withdrawals worked for a tiny little bit afterwards, but then they got frozen. That hasn't happened with Bitfinex. But what's also interesting is, like unlike your Black Friday example and the one broker example, like you could still deposit into Bitfinex. Like the New York AG doesn't want you to deposit into Bitfinex right now, right? So I would be hesitant to say that the reason you could deposit and withdraw on Bitfinex is because the New York AG is just so compassionate that they just care about the Bitfinex users. Like I think to the New York AG, they'll never say it. They pretend they're protecting users, but really they hate all the Bitfinex users just as much as they hate Bitfinex because they want every single one of those users to register with them, know who they are, yada, yada, yada.
Fuck you, Ben Losky.
To New York AG, privacy is a crime.
Yeah. I mean, this is a little tangent here. We're over an hour by now, too. We're at 102.
Really?
Yeah, but we're riffing.
We'll make this one an epic. This is going to be an epic pod.
Yeah. But, like, again, like going down back to the discussion about we're going down a path. We have a decision to make. Do we want the centrally planned panopticon or do we want to fight for these privacies? Like some woman traveling via JetBlue last week made Twitter aware that she thought she was going to need a boarding pass, but they just facially recognized her without even asking her.
So convenient.
And that was her ticket. And I like airports scare the shit out of me, man. They're like,
and it wasn't even opt-in.
Airports are normalization camps, man. It's so like this is
you have zero privacy at an airport. The thing is, they already had all those pictures. JetBlue actually got the pictures from like U.S. Customs or like immigration or someone like that. Some U.S. agency gave it to them, so they already have all the pictures. They know you're going to be on the plane. They're already doing facial recognition to you while you're walking through the airport, when you're going through security and all that shit. When you go through customs, they take a bunch of pictures of you now. I went to Hong Kong. The first thing they did was take a picture of me. So, like, this particular thing, like, it sucks that it's, like, getting normalized. But, like, some people are talking about, like, oh, I'm going to switch airlines. Like, they already have the pictures. They're already doing facial recognition to you. that doesn't do anything. Like just like the only difference is you actually have to pull out your boarding pass. Like that's the only difference.
How do we fight back against this?
Well, I think first of all, we just for the face thing, we're just fucked because
We're face fucked.
Yeah, I don't know. We can do like masks and all this other stuff. Like Minority Report. I really like the fake eyeballs, like the black market or like black market contacts or something.
Contacts. I don't want to change my eyes.
What was Minority Report? Was it a full eyeball transplant? I think
They did a full eyeball transplant. Then he also had like this tool where he could contort his face, but that only worked for like a few hours.
Yeah. So like we'll have like masks and stuff, but hopefully, but maybe we'll have like societies that have like camera-free zones and stuff. Try and take it back piece by piece. But I think you should just assume that your face is being tracked at all times.
Yeah, but like
wear a hat, wear sunglasses.
CCTVs everywhere.
Yeah.
In this city, you can't walk outside without seeing 8 cameras like on a light post.
Yeah, and like Google, Facebook, Apple, they're all doing face recognition too. So you don't even just have the governments. You have all the and when the data leaks, it gets out. I mean, there was a Wired article that was talking about like academics doing facial recognition. I linked it on Twitter in response to one of your tweets. Like academics are taking a lot of photos to do in facial recognition studies, and like those photos find themselves in like all different databases around the world because they've leaked and been shared all over, and like some of them are like college students like walking, because one of the things is like original facial recognition, like machine learning training kind of shit was done with like models who were like standing in front and looking, but that doesn't really work in the real world. So what they need is real world people that aren't aware that they're being pictures taken of to feed into their algorithm. So they're like taking pictures with like telephoto lenses from onto college campuses, but like the kids are like supposedly warned because there's like flyers up that say that it's happening, but the kids are like looking at their phone texting. They don't fucking know that it's happening. And now their faces are part of a database in like a Chinese company. Like that's fucked. It's fucked.
I guess we should just submit to this reality and react accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has to care about their privacy, and we'll turn bits and pieces. People will care as they get fucked, basically, as they get burned by this shit. And it's up to us to take it back. And we have tools here that can prove very useful, but you have to actually care. If you don't care about your privacy, like no one else will. Like we can't hold your hand. You have to care. The number one rule is care.
It's care, and beyond that, like it's important. Like you should, like the consequences of not caring and not acting in accordance with that caring are dire, I would argue. Like, I mean,
yeah, it's like authoritarian.
It's very authoritarian, and I believe we're easily slipping into a more authoritarian world. So we need a call to action of more people being proactive, running Tor nodes, running Bitcoin full nodes, speaking just in general, speaking up. Like, hey, don't fucking facially recognize me without my permission and stuff like that.
It's a lazy argument, but those are the best arguments. Like Hitler would have loved facial recognition. DNA databases of everyone's DNA, their faces, their fingerprints, their locations. Like, come on.
Yeah. All you freaks out there sharing your locations with your friends on Snapchat, stop. That's something. Gen Z.
I uninstalled Snapchat.
If there's any Gen Z listening out there, like I see my sister, she's like on the cusp of millennials and Gen Zs. They don't care about privacy at all.
Some of them do. Some of them are Bitcoiners. I see them in my DMs sometimes.
Nice. That's good to know. Hey, you young youths, listen to this podcast. Keep caring.
Yeah, we have at least one 5-year-old who listens to the pod.
15 months.
15 months. Look at that. Is that Gen Z?
I don't know. He probably doesn't understand what we're saying.
I'll tell you one thing. I doubt he's sharing his location.
It depends. Does he have a Bluetooth-enabled Nookie?
I hope not.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Next topic, Gemini integrates SegWit fully.
They just deserve a shout-out for both receive and send functionality.
Yeah, shout out to Gemini. I'm not a big fan of your marketing tactics lately, but I will give props where props are due. This is huge.
Crypto doesn't need rules, but Bitcoin needs SegWit. So
yeah,
There you go.
Thanks for helping it out. Casa, again, another update. We meant to talk about this last week. They announced it like right before we recorded. Forgot to put it on the list. They enable Tor support as well, and they have a huge sort of data privacy initiative going on. They're going to have a blog series on why you should care, basically in line with the topic of conversation that we were talking about 30 seconds ago, why you should care about your privacy, how you can protect your privacy and your data online.
Yeah, one of the awesome things about Casa is they don't require KYC for their multi-sig solution. They're trying to be a privacy-first business, take as little private information as possible. Their privacy policy is very strong, and they're trying to promote this, and that should definitely be applauded. Tor node by default is fucking huge. You know, going back to our other conversation, the Bitcoin node on your Casa, it doesn't use Tor. And part of it is because of I guess not IBD because it's pre-sync, but because, you know, it's just way harder to keep sync with Tor nodes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is huge that they integrated Tor by default on the Lightning node. Everyone's Lightning node should run through Tor so you don't leak your IP address, unless you're trying to run a bigger node that does a lot of connections, because Tor nodes can connect to ClearNet nodes. So like if you have a Tor node, absolutely connect it to our node. And then we can reciprocate. We can't reciprocate back to you. We can't open a channel to you. Only a Tor node can open a channel to you unless you first open one to us. We need to see you as a peer first. But we can still open one back to you. And I'm debating whether or not So this brings Casa in line with Nodl, who also lets you run Tor. They don't have it on by default, but it's just a couple clicks. So I'm debating whether or not we pull our node behind Tor. There's pros and cons there from like a routing perspective, because like at least all you guys can connect to us through Tor to us, and then we can give high performance because it's on a gigabit line. So we'll see. We're playing that by ear. I'm definitely not going to do anything until we get static channel backups, which should come next week on Nodl. The way that they plan on doing it is really cool, I think, is you plug in a USB thumb drive. You first you put your PGP fingerprint on the device, like basically like your public key, and then they encrypt your seed and the channel backup with your PGP key on your USB drive, and then at any point, if you need to force close all those channels and restore your backup, you can just use the thumb drive. So it should be nice, super convenient. And then I'll feel more comfortable playing around with some of the things.
Be aware. These things are coming. They're on the horizon. They're coming from every angle, man. It's like this is the best bear market that's ever been. So do you think after Bitfinex, do you think the price goes lower again, man? We're still above 5,000 right now, above 5,100 right now.
The key price not to break is the 3,400 August price for the Murad bet.
Yeah, we need that Nobu.
But like even if that broke, then he was still wrong because he already changed his mind on that.
Yeah.
I still don't think I'm like you said, it's been the most bullish bear market I think we've ever had, and the fact that we just haven't just elevated down here on this news, I think it could presumably hang over our head for like a long time and just be constant FUD. But I think we're like, I'd be really, really surprised if we broke December's lows.
Yeah. No, it's again, I wrote about a couple macro themes earlier this week. It seems that a couple countries across the globe are in a heavy gold accumulation phase that's been not necessarily under the radar, but not talked about too much. We'll see if Bitcoin plays into that safe haven asset in the future.
Who's secretly stacking sats out there?
Well, China. I went back and looked at the data. Some Bullion Star, which is some gold dealer, posted a chart of Russia's. Last quarter, they raised their total gold reserves again to like 21 2,168 tons, I believe. So that like led me to go check the gold charts. Just I believe it was economictrades.com. They have really good gold charts of accumulation over time. I was just checking like the top 10 countries, and China and Russia in particular. Over the last 2 decades, China has 4.5x their gold holdings, and Russia over the last decade is 5x theirs.
The question, Marty, is how do you use gold to pay for coffee?
Whew. I think you would need gold notes. I think you would need a whole system, a whole bill system built on top of it.
What's a gold note is like an aircraft carrier or something.
No, a gold note, like a bill
Oh.
that represents gold held in a vault.
So you're, yeah.
But it's not practical.
Like fiat gold.
Yeah. No, and that's sort of the line of questioning that popped in my mind. Like, why are they doing that? Are they trying to get on par with the U.S. And if you look at like U.S., Germany, other major gold holders, their gold holdings are going down, not at nearly the pace that China and Russia are buying. But it begs the question: are they hedging against currency risk, local economic risk? Do they just want to get on par with gold reserves with the rest of the world? These are the questions that drive Uncle Marty crazy at night.
They want to like a censorship-resistant store of value.
Yeah.
Wait till they realize what Bitcoin is.
Yeah, we're hour and 15 in. It's a long one. It's been a fun one. We got some merch this show. We finally got some merch. We got Sup Freaks hats coming for you.
Yeah, we're both wearing our hats.
This is first foray into merch, into design. We're going to try and have the site up. I think hopefully by the time we meet next week, the site will be up.
We're super excited, freaks. We got a lot coming for you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's been fun building it. So be on the lookout for that. Very limited supply merch. So we're going to drop it. We have 40 hats to sell. And these are first edition, very special, near and dear to our hearts. So it's going to be very limited supply. We're going to drop it. We'll tease that on Twitter and maybe on next week's show. And so make sure you get them while they're hot. Make sure you're paying attention.
And you can only buy them with Lightning.
Lightning or on-chain too.
Oh, we're accepting on-chain?
Yeah.
It's limited edition, Marty.
Yeah, limited edition. No fiat. We're going to be Bitcoin closed loop to start.
I was wearing my Run LND shirt that I
Shout out Willow Burn.
That I bought from Willow Burn. Not only could you only buy it with Lightning, you could only buy it if you had an LND node.
Yeah.
It checked your node. You had to sign with your node.
He did that to tease something he's working on. What was he working on with that?
I think he was just testing out, basically signing with your node to provide authorization.
Okay. Yeah. So oh shit, man. How the hell have we not talked about this yet? I'm so sorry. You fucking co-host here launched a product this week.
Oh, I forgot to.
Final message. You've been working on this since before we met. I mean, you talked about it when we initially recorded last year. You were telling me about it after.
Yeah, I wanted to shill it on the first episode that I recorded with you on TFTC, and then we got drunk and I forgot.
So,
and good thing I didn't shill it because it went through so many iterations since then.
You got a proud co-host over here, smiling from ear to ear. This is dope product, dope concepts. Sort of walk us through what.
And you tried it out, right?
Yeah, I tried it out
for me.
Yeah, it works.
I mean, so basically, I thought of it during the bull market because I was riding my skateboard, and I was like, "Fuck, if I get hit by a car and like lose my memory or die, like 70% of my Bitcoin are gone." Because you like have to do a balancing act where you want it to be easy for your heirs or like your loved ones to get your Bitcoin if something happens to you, but like you don't want them to be an attack vector. Like you don't want like your mother like putting like a post-it note on next to her computer of your seed phrase or something, or getting tortured for it if we want to like get really
morbid.
Yeah. So the first thing that came to mind was Dead Man Switch, and I had already been familiar with it. Snowden really popularized it. He had his own Dead Man Switch, which is basically a message that gets sent out to pre-designated recipients if something happens to you. You know, if basically, and the way it's set up is like there's no easy way to tell if something happens to you, so it runs on the opposite idea where you have to keep basically pressing the snooze button, otherwise it'll send out. And if you stop pressing the snooze button, you assume something bad happened, whether or not you were imprisoned. If you were imprisoned, they would go off, or if you die, or if you lose your memory. So then I was looking around for like an easy like privacy preserving solution. They didn't exist unless you ran your own server. So I was like, okay, like so we should build this. And then we just did multiple different iterations. We were trying to figure out like a nice balance here. I decided that, some things just, it's just not practical to eliminate all trust. So it's like very trust minimized. It's just a very simple tool. The only trust you have in us is that we actually send the message. Because for two reasons, you should make sure that the message isn't, if it can get compromised, imagine it gets compromised, it shouldn't affect you. You should structure it in such a way.
The message is encrypted too, so you can't read it.
Right, but that's just like, the encryption is like locally on your browser, and it's like an internet connected device, and who the fuck knows who your adversaries are or whatnot. So like that's just an added bonus to make sure that we're not storing any messages in clear text. We don't know what your message is. If we get compelled by the government, we don't know what your messages are. We only take the only required piece of information is the recipient email addresses. You can set multiple email addresses. And I really like, and the only way you can just pay us, it's a flat rate. It's right now we're starting at $50 a year, paid with Bitcoin only. We have no intention of converting into fiat, just for whatever that's worth. And it scales down. So if you do a smaller amount of time, you do a week or whatever, you like pay 96 cents. It's equivalent. And we might offer discounts and stuff on that price. I just wanted to like offer a sustainable price where no matter what kind of usage I have, like I can just guarantee that I keep this thing up and iterate and improve on it for like 10 years or however long you might need it. And I'm hoping we can reduce that last bit of trust, which is us actually sending the message if something happens to you, by basically having like redundant ways of that information passing. So you just use final message as like an extra. Like one thing I was thinking is like Unchained Capital like offers a 2 of 3 multi-sig where they keep one key for you. Like you could also put one key in final message, and then you have redundancy there. If they can't sign for you, then you could use that key. And then because you can send, I think with multi-sig, it just really ups the potential of this kind of tool, because you can put a multi-sig key in there, and even if the encryption fails, multi-sig by design, I can't, or the government can't spend your money with just that one key. And then you could do like really cool things. Like if you had like a 5 of 8 multi-sig and you have like 4 heirs and they each have a key, and then you email them all with the final message, you email them all the 5th key. Not only do they need that final message to come through, they can't spend your funds until then. They all need to come together and agree, combine their keys, add the 5th key, and then they can access the funds. So you could do like really cool things while I'm just keeping it really simple. It's just a text box. It's just, I really like that idea of just a nice, simple tool that people can just add to their toolbox, do whatever they want with it.
It's beautiful. And again, man, I'm proud. It's fucking incredible, simple, elegant, and seems like a very good use case. And for somebody who hates ninja launches so much, you ninja launched the shit out of this.
We had been it just refactored the code and shit, and it just been kind of like dragging on for a while. I'd been getting feedback from people, and like we're about to like scale up TFTC and stuff, and I was just like, we need to put this out there. We're gonna put it out. We like kept tweaking little things. We still are gonna. I right now we're calling it beta release. You can test it out with a weak switch if you want. It's 96 cents. Everything works. But we want to add more features. One of the things we don't have right now is you can't cancel the switch. You can't cancel the message. And the reason that is because I think that's an attack vector. You don't want like someone to cancel your message and then it never goes out. But a lot of people like the cancel option. So what I think we'll do is we're going to add like a optional two-factor where you like scan it with an app on your phone. Like app-based two-factor. And if you do that, you can enable it so that you can cancel it if you have that two-factor code, and the only way you can add more time is with the two-factor code. Because right now, it operates kind of like Koala Studios does, where you get a random account ID. right? And that's how you add time to it. You pay and you add time. Presumably, there's an attack vector here. The only attack vector that we haven't really eliminated is that if someone gets your account ID, they could presumably just keep paying us, so the message never goes out, but they can't cancel it. So that added feature would make it so that it'd be much harder for them. They need your phone basically to either cancel or add time to your message.
Nah, it seems like a great MVP at this point. It's
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
awesome.
That's exactly what I wanted to do.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you.
Again, you've been talking about this since I've known you. I'm happy to see that you released it into the wild. It looks a lot better than when I first saw it, too.
Yeah, we just kept, we kept getting nervous and then just changing everything. This is like this time I was just like, no, we're launching.
Sometimes you just got to let them free.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went really well, and I'm excited, and people are testing it out, and we're seeing what users say, and we're going to keep iterating, and yeah, I'm excited.
Matt Odell, Bitcoiner, podcaster, builder.
There you go.
That's all we got for this week, freak. Sorry we ran a little bit longer.
Wait, do we really? I thought there was definitely something else there.
Bitmain.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so, all right, we'll keep going. This will be a ripper. So our Bitmain source for the last year almost now, I feel like, or getting close to a year, BTC King 555 came out and said the now acting CEO of Bitmain is looking to disassociate Bitmain from Bitcoin Cash. So any of you Bitcoin Cash holders out there, just be aware, Bitmain's a huge holder of Bitcoin Cash and by extension Bitcoin SV as well. So if they're looking to disassociate themselves and they're in a bit of a liquidity crisis as a business, they may need to unload some of that balance sheet, which is heavily denominated in those two fork currencies.
Well, we kind of knew this was, this is a rumor, but we kind of knew this was coming anyway because they're two founder CEOs, Jihan and the other guy that is always more under the radar. What is it, Macron Zhao or something? Did I just make up that name? I don't know.
No, you're very close. Yeah, McCree Zhang.
There you go. That was pretty good. I'm going to give myself credit for that. They both had to step down, and they were like the ones who led this whole Bitcoin Cash insurrection. So
McCree Zhang's there now, and he wants to disassociate.
Fuck. So I don't get credit for it.
No, you don't get credit.
Okay, but Jihan and his other founder both had to step down. And then this guy takes over, so of course, they're going to start unwinding that. And, Bitcoin Cash from the beginning, and I think Segwit2x in a lot of ways was a Bitmain power move trying to centralize the market around themselves. And they fucking failed. And then this is what they have to deal with.
Yeah, they have to put their tail between their legs, come back to Bitcoiners and be like, we were wrong. And now they're trying to save face.
Well, they haven't said we were wrong.
I think this is an admission that they're wrong. They're trying to disassociate.
This is a rumor, though.
I
want a letter. I want them to send out a letter.
BTC King 555 has been pretty credible source up to this point.
He has been.
He has been. Hasn't he?
Yeah, everyone said he wasn't, but he definitely has been.
I believe. Oh, we got a couple things to shill here. Already shilled the merch. We're going to be at a couple conferences this summer. The Bitcoin Conference 2019 in San Francisco, hosted by Bitcoin Magazine. If you guys have not bought a ticket to that yet, you can use the code RHR for a discount there. And then we're going to be at the BitBlock Boom Conference in Dallas in early August, I believe. And same thing, RHR. I believe you get 30% off the tickets.
It's pretty great because we get to hit the two different dichotomies of Bitcoiners, the San Francisco Bitcoiners and the Texas Bitcoiners.
Yeah. And I think those are going to be two live rabbit hole recaps with guests on stage.
That's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah. And then
more live shows. And also we might have something to announce about a live show during Consensus Shitcoin Week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we should. I think we should do a live show during there. That would be cool.
I haven't talked to them in like a couple months.
We should try and make something happen.
I don't know if I want to.
No, not at Consensus.
Oh.
During the week of Consensus,
I thought you meant
when
like
everyone is in New York, I would like to have like a side event where we do a live rabbit hole recap.
We can make this happen, I think.
Yeah, so if any of you freaks can help make that happen.
We're looking for venues, for equipment.
And consider this a tease. Be on the lookout for information regarding that.
Yeah. Freaks, thank you for indulging us as we go a half an hour longer than we usually do. We really appreciate your time and your viewership, your listenership. Like we've teased earlier, we got a lot of big things coming. Some merch coming, a site coming, a lot of live shows. We love you. If you love us, let us know on Twitter, via reviews, on iTunes, whatever podcast platform you like. Let us know what you're thinking, how you're liking us. Matt, you have anything to end this on?
Yeah, reviews really help us. So leave a review, a good review. And stay humble, stack sets.
Yeah. Peace and love, freaks.